Welcome to AI Insights, the Executive Brief, where I sit down with executive leaders in technology to explore their insights and experiences. This week, I'm excited to chat with Carmen Williams, author of Evolve for Growth and Fractional CMO at Daye Digital. We'll be discussing her unique approach to business evolution, the role of AI in driving growth, and how businesses can adapt to thrive in a constantly changing environment. Let's dive in.
Great to see you again. Carmen Williams, Chief Evolution Officer for Evolve for Growth and Fractional CMO for Daye Digital.
Awesome. Carmen, thank you for jumping on. I know we had a conversation about 2 weeks ago, and I've been excited since to talk to you because I think you take a very unique approach to business, which I think will also give us some unique insights into AI and some of the other things that we're going to talk about. But let's first start with your fractional CMO. You're also a Chief Evolutionary Officer. So let's start with Chief Evolutionary Officer.
Sure.
And then there is a lot of interest in how that flows into your fractional CMO. And there's a lot of interest in these fractional C-suite and executive type of positions. So let's start there.
Sure, that sounds great. So basically, Evolve for Growth is my thought leadership business, and it's a newer business. Really, my mission in life is to teach people about evolving towards the greater good.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what my book is all about. So I can talk a little bit about that in a minute. But I've been a 35-year marketing veteran. So my main business is helping early stage companies grow through marketing.
That's amazing. So when I thinking about this evolutionary or evolution officer, and I think about evolution, of course, I think about Darwinism and the evolution of animals or men or just humanity. What do you have a background with that type of evolution from a scientific standpoint, and you've tied that into business, or where did you start really getting interested in this evolutionary growth in business?
Well, I always believe things happen for you. There's a reason when things happen. And I was very blessed to have a very interesting company reach out to me about 5-6 years ago called Unisys.org. They are the company, they're a research company primarily, and they discovered the science of evolution in application for business environments. And they were exploring a pilot around having business consultants learn about this and kind of spread the word of their business. And so I joined them on a master's program for a year and was trained on their, principles. So it was kind of by chance. It wasn't me looking for that kind of learning, but I got that master's of science of evolution, and that propelled me in the direction that I'm going.
Is there a comparison to almost like survival of the fittest in business, and you look at that in the animal world and the way animals either adapt and continue to survive or don't adapt? And I think like Blockbuster, obviously, I think that's like a very common one that everyone thinks about, of adapting and evolving. Is there has to be a huge comparison to that, right?
It's exactly right. So essentially, every living entity is an adaptive environment. So I'm an adaptive environment. You are. Our company is, a culture is, an economy, the world, the universe. So this company, Unisys, actually published a paper a couple years ago as well on the universe and how the same rules apply. So if you understand the science of evolution, you can do a better job of managing your adaptive environment, your adaptive relationships. So business, of course, is all about relationships. So it perfectly applies.
Yeah.
And so so every living entity is constantly oscillating between growth and contraction. And so if you understand the rules, which I can explain in a minute, you can just do a better job of growing your business, essentially.
Yeah, this could go, this
And
is just
by the way,
fascinating.
yeah, by
Absolutely
the way,
fascinating. What's that?
I said, by the way, the science of evolution is called fundamentals AI. Artificial intelligence. So we'll talk about that in a minute, and how you compare that with what everybody today talks about AI, which is math-based AI. So,
which is math-based AI. Yeah. I like this other concept that you're talking about. Now, your book is called Evolve for Growth.
Evolve for Growth. Yep.
Okay.
And it's on Amazon. Carmen Williams on Amazon.
Okay. So Carmen we'll make sure to get that posted as well. I mean, this seems like a fascinating topic. And like you said, this tie into AI. and the evolution of AI, the adaptability of humanity into AI, the adaptability of businesses into AI, businesses
Right.
keeping their humanity while adapting AI. So you talked about some best practices or some steps for this, or like walk me through some of that.
Yeah, so first of all, explain the rules. So essentially, every living entity is in relation to other living entities, like in the environment, right? And so you get into relationship based on what's called the unified field or triadic structure, and it
Mhm.
includes three key elements: a shared vision or a shared believed future state, a shared growth strategy. So, how the two entities together will be bigger or better together,
Mhm.
and a what's called a survival strategy or complementation, where what they share is operating, how they operate to build trust and credibility. So, those are the three essential elements. So, if you think about business,
Yeah.
right? You want to, when you get into a relationship in business, whether it's a partnership or a customer and a business or an employee and their business, you want to clearly understand that for that relationship to last long term and be fruitful, you have to have, consistency or alignment in those
Alignment.
three key elements.
I love that. And I think of all the different jobs that I've had throughout my life. And I can honestly say rarely have I had that perfect alignment. And I might align with one or two, but when I have had that alignment, it's
Great.
just, it's great. So
Great.
do you cover this in your book? Is this part of what you talk about in your book?
I do. And I give some examples of my
Mhm.
own personal 35 years in marketing, of examples when there was great alignment, and examples when there was not great alignment. So, yeah.
I love it. What was your aha moment for your book when you're finally like, I think we think about writing books often and we're like, we're gonna do it. What was
Yeah.
your aha moment where it's like, I'm not thinking about this, I'm doing it?
I'll be honest with you. For me, we're all on a journey, and they say the greatest day, two greatest days of your life was the day you're born and the day you realize why, right? So you understand why you're here, your purpose. And I think for me, I'm over 50, so kind of crossed that, went through a divorce, yada yada, got this learning, and kind of came to this clarity of my purpose. And my purpose is to teach people, to teach the world that you need to evolve towards the greater good, which is love. So we're actually becoming a more loving society, believe it
Hmm.
or not. I know it's hard sometimes because there's still wars and
Yeah.
conflict, but it's about each individual evolving to be more. And from a business application, companies who have more cultures that are focused on the greater good, so more loving cultures, do better because it's good for evolution. So in other words, good overcomes evil. I know that sounds really, it starts to get a little, whatever, but that's really the reality. So companies that focus on being evolutionary will do better and succeed more. So that's the
Yeah.
if you read the book, that's kind of the key takeaway.
The key, and it's a key takeaway in life. I think when you think about life in general, you wrote, I saw one of your blogs, it was 10 practices to build an evolutionary mindset. And
Yeah.
now I'm looking at number 4, focus on a greater good, which is a
Yeah.
reoccurring theme. Now,
Yep.
this is also an important theme, I believe, with artificial intelligence and our implementation of and usage of artificial intelligence, because I
Yeah.
can see there's two different ways we can do this in business. One, we can put it in, free up time, and then demand more from our employees and almost drive more metrics, more this, more that.
Yeah.
Or we can actually give time back to our employees. We can give time back, like for psychological care, for
Yeah.
self-care, for self-healing. How do you see businesses focusing on the greater good now,
Yeah.
and how does AI play into that?
I mean, the AI is a tool, and any tool can be used for good or evil, right? So that's really, it's not about the tool. It's about you as an entity and how
Mhm.
you're going to do better and more for the greater good. And AI is a wonderful tool. I think healthcare specifically, like all of the, in fact, that's where a lot of my prospective clients are coming from
Mhm.
right now, is AI in healthcare, because it is going to do an amazing thing to help us with healthcare delivery and improving patient outcomes. So there's a lot that can be done that's good. And I think I'm excited to see that. And I'm just the reason I'm encouraging everybody, people, entrepreneurs looking at AI, and is to do it for the good, not for, selfish reasons.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, it's going to be better for you.
It
as
will
well.
be
Yeah.
absolutely. And it's funny, you and I, during our last conversation, I was talking about this little fear of mine about humans becoming more machine-like
Oh yeah.
and AI, not so much AI is becoming more human, but humans starting to lose their humanity. And you had a different
Yeah,
take on that. Of
I
course, a more
did.
positive take, which I like, but it is also backed in science and evolution, which
Yeah.
is better. So let's talk about that a little bit. Why do you think we're going to come out on top on this?
So, and I think what we talked about in our first meeting was that I think this fear that the whole world's going to be all these robots and we'll be having, you know, there's two types of relationships.
Mhm.
There's emotional relationships and there's transactional relationships. And the reality is robots are they're not going to be able to have emotional relationships. They'll be able, AI is amazing for automation, right?
Mhm.
Streamlining things, speeding up things, and we'll be learning how to use that to our, to make it easier and better and more fruitful. But relationships are still about people,
Right.
and at least from an emotional standpoint. And it's proven that in business, when you build that emotional connection with your audience, you're more successful. Like it's time and time again, that. I
Mhm.
mean, from a marketing creative development standpoint, we talk a lot about that, right? You're supposed to
Yeah.
build that emotional connection. So um, I think that it's easy to get fearful about any new thing, and AI is just a new thing. And
Yeah.
in 10 years from now, people will all calm down, and there'll be something else new that we'll get
Right.
fearful about. But the thing with evolution and being and growing more, because the whole point of understanding an evolutionary approach is to be able to grow more. And to grow more, you have to stop being fearful. You have to be open to new ideas, open to change. And if you keep your eye on the greater good, like I said,
Mhm.
it's all positive. So that's my view.
It all grow. I love that.
Yeah.
And you talked about a happier society and a more loving society. And I absolutely agree with that. I think that sometimes it's our views are filtered from social media and even media right now. And I think there's a little bit of a tie-in even to AI. And I hear about bias in AI, but what I'm actually seeing is that bias is generally coming from us as the user, and AI is feeding off that bias. So
Yeah.
what's a recommendation? I mean, as we continue to see so much
Yeah.
hate in the media and so much hate in social media, but it's almost propagating off of our views and it's feeding. And this is a part of AI and machine learning that's learning us and it's just trying to get views and clicks. How do we
Yeah.
filter out this noise that isn't really a reality, but it's this false narrative that's being pushed on us?
So there's a lot in that question, but first
Yeah.
I'll start with this, which is that AI, as we all talk about it right now, math-based AI, is looking at past data and analyzing to use it to predict the future. So past to predict the future. Evolutionary approach, the science of evolution, is about understanding how entities operate to predict the future. And you need both, because if you only look at the past, you're not really going to serve the future. And what you just explained by bias is exactly that, because
Yeah.
AI is looking at past, and we are. So let me just talk about biases for a
Yeah.
minute. And the reason we're all in evolution, it was advantageous to build relationships with people like yourself, because for survival. And
Right.
so it's in nature that we want to hang out with, work with, be with people that are like us. And it takes that evolutionary mindset, that opening of diversity and new ideas and change, to be more evolutionary and to not do that, to go against that, because it actually produces better results. So when you have diverse ideas, diverse people, um, openness around exploring and testing new ideas, you get a better result. So that's all I can say at this point,
Yeah.
if that makes sense.
No,
Right? So, yeah.
it absolutely does. I love this concept and I really do, just your approach with it. So let's look at marketing a little bit and the evolution of
Yeah.
marketing. And I know there's been a lot. So discounting AI, what do you think the most evolutionary trend has been in marketing? I mean, you think about print ads, uh, catalogs, all the different things that we've been through as far as how marketing has transformed. What do you think the a way marketing has really been an example of evolutionary development?
Well, people in marketing like myself, okay, I giggle often thinking about I was going to be a teacher, and teaching in that kind of a career is low change, right? Marketing is we are constantly reinventing ourselves. So we're at the
Mhm.
forefront of being evolutionary, okay? Now, what I'll tell you though that the data, the analysis AI approach with data is really helping marketing, right? Be more iterative, being able to adapt quicker and faster and adjust, to the, developing messaging that matches, and so pairing that with the evolutionary thinking is really the future.
Yeah.
So I think there's more exciting things to come, honestly, from the marketing community when you pair the two.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a fun. AI has been an interesting advent for marketing, and I don't want to laugh too hard at it, but for my engineering brain, marketing is always coming out with whiz bang technology and whiz bang this, and in my engineering brain is always that's just like whiz bang. It's not like, but marketing wins like because they push out that messaging. But this is the first type of technology where I've actually seen marketing throw up some resistance, and I think it's a fair like because unfairly they think that it's going to take their job, but there
Well,
is a fear of AI in marketing right now
I
in some
think
circles.
though it's a lack of understanding how to use AI,
Yes.
because it can be used the wrong way. And this goes back to like AI, or sorry, marketing has always been a mix of that data and that creativity, right? And so AI, where AI is writing the email, or AI is creating the picture, or AI that's doing these things without any kind of human kind of editing or
Hmm.
a checkpoint is a problem, because it's never going to be built. Like, again, it's back to that emotional relationship versus transactional.
Yeah.
And so you really need to be like driving the AI or managing the AI, interpreting the AI. If it's just left on its own, then yeah, it doesn't produce the best marketing, honestly.
Absolutely. And I think right now, and I've used this example, the AI example is people arguing over whether the ventriloquist puppet is actually really speaking, or else if the ventriloquist is speaking through the puppet. And right now, the ventriloquist is still speaking through the puppet. And the
Right.
better the ventriloquist, the better, the puppet and the act. And that's the same with AI, right? The better
Right.
the human interaction with it, the better it is, the better
Yes.
you react with it. So I got a question about your book. I know writing
Okay.
a book, I'm in the middle of writing a book right now. And
Yeah.
yeah, I don't want to say it's a labor of love, but there's a lot that goes into it.
Yeah.
What was your favorite chapter? Was there a chapter you wrote where you just absolutely like it was just the most fun chapter to write, or was it just overall just a fun experience? Or was there a specific chapter that
Yeah.
you're like, oh, this was fun to write?
I'm not sure writing a book would be in the fun category, but it was fun when it was done. I'm just kidding. Um, I think for me, the this desire to get the message across was enough motivation to go through the hard. It took a year, and I worked weekends. I didn't have a relationship at the time, so that was enabled it. But I meant to committed relationship. But in any case, obviously I have my kids and I have lots of relationships. But
Yeah.
in any case, it was fun and at moments. But I would say again, the best part was just the chapter that talked about the future and the inspiration or encouragement to embrace change and to look for the greater good. So
Yeah, I think that greater good. That's such a positive. Just going back to that, it's such a positive way to look at that. And you're right. Like when we look at throughout humanity, even though there is some horrible tragedies and things that happen, that's just part of life.
yeah,
But it seems like we always do tend to gravitate, or the majority, and it might not be the loud majority, but the majority does, or the loud minority, but the majority does gravitate towards that greater good. And I love that. I absolutely love that concept. Now, I get I talk to a lot of executives, a lot of C suites. Obviously, that's the basis of my show. And I want to circle back to this fractional
yeah,
CMO uh, fulfillment or position that you're fulfilling right now in
yeah,
several different companies. How did that come about? I think like C suites and executives want to know, like, how do I get, a lot of them are interested. How do I get into that? That seems like it's an exciting kind of new, and you talked about evolution, an exciting evolution of that position.
yeah.
So let's talk about that a little bit more in depth.
Well, I mean, there's been talk about gig economy for a long time. And so I think fractional offerings is kind of part of that. And I just think it's evolution. That's the way we're going. And the reason that we're heading towards more of that gig or fractional service offering is that it's just more flexible. It's easier to be adaptable. And, the paces of business and the pace of life is increasing. And that's because we're wanting to grow more, and so growing more takes that iterative, flexible, adaptable approach. And
Yeah.
so fractional offers that for companies, early stage companies more so, but even like big companies. I mean, I think Microsoft was one of the first that did that contract work type approach. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's the future.
I like that. I think for me, I don't want to say I have a neurodiverse mind, but I have a very unique way of operating. And if I spend too much time on one thing, I lose my creativity. I kind of get caught in this weird rut of a thought process. But if I'm jumping from not too much, there still has to be focus. But when I go from one focus to a different focus, I'm and there's spurts of just extremely high like thought process. I'm more just creative. I'm more successful. And that's why I love doing like video series and podcasts. I love running my business. I like fitness. So I'm starting a fitness podcast. I like doing all these things, and I have enough time in the day, but it keeps me creative because I'm going from one thing to another. Uh, is that normal, like for to like have those spurts of energy and creative process through diversifying what you do?
I mean, I think it's a balance, right? Like there's a lot of talk too about when you become an expert at something, that takes a lot of that repetition. And, so I think it's a combination of that consistency and precision and focus, as well as that change and adaptability. So I think it
Yeah.
takes both. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a little bit of both. So when it comes to AI, and just kind of jumping back into that
Mhm.
conversation, where do you think we evolve? Where do you think businesses evolve, or how do you think, are there safeguards we need to put in a business to protect the human aspect, or do you think it'll just be more of a natural way that and you mentioned earlier how businesses need that human touch, how they thrive off the human touch. Do you think we might swing that pendulum a little too far at first and then be like, "Ooh, let's wait." So there'll be a lot of mistakes at first made, and then we'll correct. Or how do you see this kind of going?
Yeah, it's interesting. I think a lot about how I worry about some people that won't be able to adapt and keep up. And I think the divide of the rich and the poor, or the divide of the skilled and not skilled, is going to happen. Like, because if businesses catch on and realize that if they hire evolutionary employees, they're going to grow more. What happens to employees? What happens to people that are not evolutionary? So I think there's going to be that. And I think there will, like I said, there's always good and evil. So we're going to continue to, I mean, for the other thing to just really mention is evolution takes a long time,
Okay.
right? So if you think about where we came from billions and billions of years ago to where, billions and billions of years ahead of us, like things take time to change. But I do, I don't really have the answers, honestly, right? And
Yeah.
so I think that it's going to be a lot of ups and downs, and, you know, growth and contraction. So
Yeah,
we'll see.
absolutely. It's going to
Yeah.
be interesting with the workforce. And I think we look at, and I read a trend that's happening, and that's for another skilled and very intelligent workforce, which is the blue collar workforce,
Yeah.
which AI is going to be the last to replace, even though maybe we might eventually have robots paving roads and doing some of that other stuff. But there is, and this is an absolutely necessity and need for society to function. And these people who are doing this work are brilliant in their own way, like their creativity with their hands and being able to do things
Yeah.
and think through things and work from a labor standpoint. I am seeing that they are seeing I am seeing that a lot of kids are going from high school to trade schools and more looking at where am I going to fit into society now, and it might not be in some of these technical ways where technology might adapt through first. Have you
Yeah.
seen that same thing?
Well, it's good because for a while there were too many kids not going into the trade. So I think it's good that it's going to balance back out. I mean, at the end of the day, I just don't believe AI is going to replace relationship building, right? So
Yeah.
if you're a service, trades professional where you've got to build relationships, then, or even white collar building relationships, that's not going to go away anytime soon. So it's really the repetitive automation tasks that will be replaced by AI
Yeah.
very quickly.
And that relationship building, and it's something I talk about from my engineering and when I speak to technical audiences or even non-technical about technical audiences, I talk about emotional intelligence. And I talk about there's a lot of IQ in technology, but the ones who stand out to me, and whether you're talking about engineers or CTOs or technologists who stand out, are the ones who bring that emotional intelligence, which is exactly what you're talking about, is that relationship building on top of the IQ. And to me, EQ comes first. I just think EQ is how we're driven. I think there's an intelligence to EQ for problem solving. Now, I'm interested from an evolutionary standpoint. What is the EQ, that emotional intelligence view of evolution?
Well, there's 4 key attributes of an entity that's evolutionary. The first one is the focus on greater good, ethical intelligence. We talked about that. What you just talked about, which is emotional intelligence, the capacity for empathy and building those relationships. The third thing is that conceptual intelligence, the ability to creatively solve problems and add value to a relationship or environment, right? Thinking beyond.
Sure.
And then the fourth one being adaptability, right? So teachers, education should be thinking about how they're teaching kids or helping kids with those 4 attributes to improve our workforce. And companies should think about, evaluating and supporting employees on those 4 attributes as well.
Yeah, that makes sense. So question about maybe writing another book. So I hear that writing a book is like tattoos. I myself have tattoos, and once you get one, you want more and more and more.
Yeah.
And I hear writing a book is similar
Yeah.
to that, even if you can't relate to the tattoo thing, that once you write one, you're like, okay, what's the next one? Is that resonating with you, where now you're thinking about what is my next book going to be, or you're in the works of it, or what's that look like?
Yeah. I mean, I agree, although I need a little break. But eventually I will read, I believe I'll write some more books.
Yeah.
Topics that I think would make sense was a deeper dive in culture. That's an area that I'm getting really passionate about. My original thinking was, do I do a book about the meaning of life or business? And then my book ended up being a kind of bit of both.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, there's lots of topics. Evolutionary applies to everything. But it is a bit of work, and so we'll see when I jump into that again.
Awesome. Well, I'm very much again looking forward to reading your book, and I know you're sending me one, so I appreciate that, and I'm very much looking forward to that. So, last thoughts on evolution, AI, and just kind of tying this in, and then also make sure for my listeners to talk about where they can get your book at. And I know you mentioned it earlier, but I want you to mention it again. And also, maybe if someone's looking for a fractional CMO right now or need help with evolution into their business, thinking they might be falling behind, how do they get a hold of you?
Great. So basically, I have a website for my book, Evolve for Growth, and I have a blog that I talk a lot about evolutionary mindset and all sorts of topics. So I'd love to see you there, evolveforgrowth.com. And then I'm also launching a community, by the way, to help others share wonderful works. That's free training to help everybody evolve. So stay tuned on that. And Daye Digital.com is my main marketing website. So I look forward to seeing you there. And then, of course, my book is on Amazon. So
awesome. And final thoughts on AI and evolution. I know it's going to be focused on the greater good, but what are your final thoughts?
Well, just have fun with AI. I think having fun with AI is the secret, and to be open to new ideas, open to change. Don't be afraid of it, and focus on the greater good. Be good. Be good. Do more.
I love it. Carmen, thank you so much for joining me. This is an absolutely just mind-blowing conversation to me, and just enlightening conversation, and your energy and everything about it has been wonderful. So thanks for joining me, and I look forward to talking to you more.
Great. Thank you.